Shocking. Jungkook acted alone. After Jimin's family is attacked by haters, Jungkook does unexpected things to HYBE. Is this the end of BTS? Or the beginning of an open war? Why did HYBE finally step in after Jungkook's report? And why did Jimin's reaction leave the army speechless? What would you do if a friend who is like your brother was hurt? Not directly, but through those closest to him. What if his family, always behind the scenes, suddenly becomes the target of hatred, slander, and terror from people who don't even know him? Will you shut up? Or will it do something, even if it means facing a huge storm that could shake things up? It was these questions that haunted many fans when this news broke, that Jimin's family was attacked by a group of haters who spread vile threats and accusations through various platforms. But what made everyone really unprepared wasn't just the attack itself. The surprise was who fought first, not Jimin, not HYBE, but Jungkook, in a moment that looks more like the opening act of an emotionally explosive drama. Jungkook, the golden magne known for being calm, gentle, and loving, takes a drastic step. He doesn't just show anger in private. He reported all haters' accounts directly to HYBE, including the evidence he collected himself. And what is more surprising? HYBE responded instantly with an official statement they had never issued before, and that set off a storm. But wait, why did Jungkook act first? Where has HYBE been all this time? And why did Jimin look so silent, even after his family was mercilessly insulted? Or was Jimin's silence actually the deepest form of hurt that he was unable to express? Could it be that there is something that they've been hiding from the public all this time? We'll unpack everything from the chronology of events, to Jungkook's sudden actions, to HYBE's reactions that left the army between relief and anger. But what was most thrilling was what happened after the report was made. A statement from Jungkook, a short one-liner that managed to bring thousands of army to tears, went viral in no time and sparked a huge discussion in the fan community. "I can't stand it when my family is hurt. He was already hurt enough by this world. I'm not gonna let that happen again." Those words sounded like a broken shield from holding back for too long. But it also sounds like a threat to whom the question is, what is really going on behind the scenes? Who is the main target of haters? Why Jimin's family? And will Jungkook's actions change the course of their relationship with HYBE forever? No one could have predicted the depth of this wound, until we saw how Jimin lowered his head in front of the camera, for the first time crying in silence, and refused to answer a single question that made the whole room freeze. Do you know who did this to your family? Jimin was silent. But from his eyes, from his quivering lips, from his tightly clasped hands, Army knew the answer, and it hurt more than anything. Because maybe, just maybe, the culprits aren't just anonymous haters. Maybe this is part of a bigger dirty game. And Jungkook, with his courage, had thrown the first stone into the middle of a quiet lake. The vibe doesn't just shake the fans, but it also shook those who had been hiding behind a big name. So, what will happen next? Is HYBE really going to follow up Jungkook's report with concrete action? Or is this just a momentary diversion to dampen the emotions of fans? And what if it turns out that Jimin already knew about this threat a long time ago, but chose to remain silent in order to keep BTS intact? The questions flowed endlessly, and all led to one point. Is this the beginning of a crack in trust between the artist and his own agency? Wait, there's more. One of the internal sources, who did not want to be named, said that before Jungkook reported HYBE, he tried to talk directly to Jimin first. But Jimin's response really hit Jungkook. "I'm used to it. You don't have to do anything." That's what Jimin said, and that was the moment that changed everything for Jungkook. I don't want to get used to that suffering. He didn't want to let Jimin continue to be a target. Because what Jungkook sees is not just a friend. What he saw was family, and family should not be hurt by anyone. HYBE then issued an official statement stating that they had received reports from the members and initiated an investigation and legal action against the perpetrators. But interestingly, they didn't mention Jungkook's name explicitly. Is this a form of protection? Or HYBE's way of keeping the image from looking weak? On the other side, the army began to move. They collected evidence, identified hate-spreading accounts, and even created a hashtag #ProtectJiminFamily trend that within 2 hours penetrated global trending in 26 countries. But what was unexpected was the appearance of a message from Jimin's own mother, who wrote it by hand and sent it through Jimin's official account. "Thank you for loving my son. But please don't hate others because of me. I'm just an ordinary mother." Is this a request for peace? Or a sign that the pressure on them is already unbearable? Clearly, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. And this beginning is not an ordinary chapter. This is the chapter that could change everything. From Jungkook and Jimin's relationship, from ARMY's perception of HYBE, even from BTS's own future. Because in the midst of an invisible war, sometimes a small act like a report can be the beginning of a great revolution. And now, we can only ask, after Jungkook's actions, who will be his next target? And will Jimin remain silent? Or finally make a sound and reveal all the wounds he has kept all this time? All the more surreal when the camera captures something unplanned. Not on stage. Not in the interview. But when Jimin and Jungkook were caught standing in the corridor behind HYBE's studio, it was days after the report came out. No staff.
There is no army.
Only them. But their gaze was enough to silence everything. Jungkook stood up straight, his face firm, but his eyes tired. It was as if he had gone through sleepless nights, scrolling through screen after screen of threats directed not at himself, but at the family of the person he protected the most. And Jimin, standing before him, was calmer than usual, but also more fragile. Like someone who just swallowed a wound and chose not to spit it out in order to maintain a false calm. "Why did you report it to HYBE?" Jimin's words sounded calm, but the rest of the trembling could not be hidden from the silent recording. "Because you'll never do it alone." Jungkook's answer exploded softly, like a whisper that brought thunder. The words, as simple as they are, have historical weight. It's not just about one report. This is about all the injustices that have been buried under Jimin's smile for too long. It's about all the moments when Jimin is silent, even when he or his family are trampled by the words of strangers who don't even know who he is. And finally, Jungkook couldn't accept the silence anymore. But what happened afterwards was more than just a conversation. According to one of HYBE's staff, who did not want to be named, Jungkook's report was not actually received with open arms at first. There's a push. There was a debate. There are even voices that suggest that this issue should not be exaggerated for the sake of the agency's image. However, Jungkook, who is known to be quiet and obedient, denied loudly for the first time in an internal meeting room. "If you can't protect him, then you don't deserve to lead us anymore." This sentence, according to the source, made the atmosphere of the room quiet for a few minutes. Some managers even fell silent and began to reconsider their decisions over the years. But is it because of guilt or fear that the members' trust is beginning to crack? And Jimin, he knows all that, but still choose to be silent. In a voice message leaked to the internal fan community, a message Jimin is believed to have sent to one of his friends, a very familiar soft voice is heard. But this time, his voice was almost broken. "I don't know why I am a burden to others. Even my mother was a victim because of me. I'm just singing. Why did it have to go this far?" That piece was enough to make anyone's heart collapse. An artist of Jimin's class, known for loving, appreciating fans, working hard beyond the limits of his body, having to bear the burden of hatred just because of his existence. And even more heartbreaking, he calls himself a burden because others choose to hurt him. But it wasn't just Jimin who felt the hurt. Jungkook, after making the report, actually began to withdraw from public activities. He declined several interview invitations, refused to appear on several variety shows. Even behind the scenes, it is rumored that he asked for a short break from HYBE. The question, is this due to pressure from HYBE? Or is it because he is disappointed in the system that he believes will always protect them? And in the midst of all that chaos, the ARMY found one more surprise. An old letter from Jungkook to Jimin, allegedly written during his trainee days, resurfaced and went viral. In the letter it is written, "Hyung is always smiling, but I can see You're always holding back something. Someday, I want to be the one who makes you feel safe to cry. Who would have thought that the day would finally come? But it's not just tears. What comes along is anger, disappointment, and frustration that has been held back for too long. HYBE finally released a follow-up statement. This time more firmly. They stated that they would take legal action against anyone who spread hate speech, including against family members. They also stated that reports from members will be priori. Just a few days after HYBE's official statement promising legal action against the spreader of hate speech, a strange movement emerged behind the scenes. Several large anti accounts which had been spreading insults about Jimin's family disappeared. But the question is, why only partially? Why not all of them? Some accounts are actually still active, even more aggressive. And they voiced something shocking. Jungkook reported US, but he didn't realize who was behind all this. Who do they mean? Is this just a provocation? Or is there something darker hiding? This fact divided the army. Some believe HYBE is playing it safe, deleting accounts that can be legally tracked, but leaving those accounts that have internal connections alive. Then, who is the connection? And on the other hand, there are those who begin to question one very painful thing. Did HYBE herself secretly allow this attack to happen for the sake of creating emotional pressure on the members? The question that used to sound like a crazy theory now began to sound plausible when Jimin disappeared from the public for 4 days in a row. No updates from Weverse. No sightings in the office. In fact, rehearsals with the main choreographer team were also not attended by her. Meanwhile, Jungkook also looks different. On one rare occasion, as he walked toward a car in front of the HYBE building, one of the reporters shouted, "Do you regret making that report?" Jungkook's answer was not heard. But the reaction? He paused for a moment, turned his face, and smiled. But not a soothing smile. It was a bitter smile. The smile of the one who knows that his questions are too small compared to the wounds he bears. And that night, Jimin finally showed up. He wrote a post. One sentence that destroyed the army in one emotional outburst. "Thank you for someone who secretly protects me, even when I don't ask." No name. There is no context. But everyone knows who he means. And even more surprising, the first comment under the post came from Jungkook, a heart emoji, and after that he deletes his account for 24 hours. Why? Is the pressure too heavy? Or is there something they're hiding together? Some army suspect that this is not just about haters. But there's an internal conflict between Jimin and some within the agency that may have indirectly allowed his family to come under attack. In an old recording that has now gone viral, HYBE staffer is seen discussing that family issues can sometimes strengthen engagement if properly controlled. Are they really using Jimin's suffering for marketing gain? And if that's the case, then Jungkook's move to report the haters to HYBE is not just an impulsive act, but a form of defiance, a resistance to the system that has been silencing them under the pretext of professionalism. However, Jungkook's actions also had other repercussions. Several brands that were in contract discussions with Jungkook and Jimin suspended their cooperation. They stated they wanted to wait for the situation to subside. But who created this situation? Are they waiting for calm, or just want to see who HYBE will get rid of? In a private live performed by one of their backing dancers, a very suspicious snippet of the conversation is heard. "He's too brave for Magne's size." But he's right. It's time someone fought back. These words don't say names, but all know who is meant. Jungkook is no longer a Magne who just follows the rules. He became a rebel in silence, and that evening, in one of the exclusive paid messages, Jimin wrote again, "I hope you don't need to know everything that happened, because you are too precious to feel the weight." That sentence made thousands of soldiers cry. Not because they don't want to know, but because they already know, and it hurts too much to pretend they don't care. But the drama isn't over. The following day, a former HYBE staffer posted on an anonymous forum about an internal document listing members who were deemed too sensitive to criticism. On the list are Jimin and Jungkook, and if it is true that the document is genuine, then this question arises. Has HYBE been branding the two people who protect each other the most as trouble? And then, who really betrayed? Haters, or the house they call their own family? Some fans actually felt this was a panic reaction, not a sincere move, because they believed if it wasn't for Jungkook's report that was a